We good?
We're good.
All right. I'm Sky Upperson. I'm Sky Upperson with the Mustang Adoption Academy. We run a veterans program called Mustangs of Service, where we invite veterans to come in and help us gentle Mustangs, and along the way they help the Mustangs, and guess what? The Mustangs help the veterans.
Thank you. My name is Chloe Garrison. I'm with the Horses and Humans Research Foundation. Our mission is to fund research and provide educational programming to expand the global knowledge around horse-human interactions and the health and wellness benefits to both horses and humans. We have funded 3 studies to date on horse-human interactions with veterans, all with positive outcomes. So excited to contribute to the field in that way.
My name is Russell Granger. I'm with 10th Mountain Equine, which is a nonprofit in Colorado. We do horse rescue, and we also do equine-assisted therapy or activities. I was a volunteer firefighter for about 15 years, and also a volunteer ski patroller for about the same period of time, 15 years. Also worked with EMS with the ambulance for about 5 years. I didn't like that as well, but as firefighting, because it takes too long to do a call. We've worked with people with different types of mental trauma, and a lot with veterans. We're beginning to work more with first responders. My interest is in first responders in a rather specific area. There are some studies regarding, well, 2014 there was a study just regarding firefighters that their stress level went up. When they have a stressful call, their mental bias of whether or not they're positive or negative when they have stressful calls, they're just biased towards negative kind of across the board. And there is a trend with not just firefighters, but people in the first responder services, that when they've had stressful calls and specific types of calls, that if they don't have some form of intervention, the overwhelming majority of them will resign within a couple of years. There's always a reason that they find, that they don't have time anymore, whatever. But when you think of the resources, whether you're paid or volunteer, the resources that go into getting somebody through their medical training, through their Firefighter 1 training, through their Firefighter 2 training, all of that resources that go in, and then they do a specific, usually it's a high stress call. I had a call, and I fit into that, where a few years after a particular call involving a fatality involving a state trooper, and within 3 years, I didn't have time anymore, and I just kind of faded away, and I don't want to see others go through that as well. So.
Wow, that's amazing. My name is Julie Robbins. I'm the founder of the Horsemanship Academy, and most recently a nonprofit called the Leg Up Experience. We partner with agencies to be one tool in their mental health toolbox to proactively support mental health. We offer an immersion style where a group from an agency will come out and spend a day with us. Think about the impact of swimming with dolphins might have had on someone's life. This is a unique experience, an immersion where we have them get a connection with the horse, develop some trust, create a bond in a safe environment with their peers in order to create a memory that they can reach back on and support. We also have found, surprisingly, which is interesting, the leadership skills that come out of working with horses has been another side benefit. So we are relatively new. We're located here in Aiken, South Carolina, and our current partner is Aiken Public Safety, which encases our police, fire, and ambulance. Public safety lady.
I'm Tammy Hansen, and I'm with the Aiken Volunteer Mounted Unit. We founded the unit 6 years ago. Aiken had a sworn mounted officer. Actually, they had 2, and they would go to all the football games, and you always saw them around town. Sonny Ford. He passed away, and so the Aiken Department of Public Safety doesn't have the funds to do another mounted unit, so we made this one under Aiken Public Safety. So we do all kinds of events, whatever they want us to do, whatever the community wants us to do. We only do 2 or more horses. Today, I have my Mustang, that's why I'm here. She's a wonderful horse, but generally we wouldn't just go out and have one horse. So we do nursing homes, we do summer camp all summer on a Friday. We went to the park and children, I think we had 62 children stroking, loving, brushing the horses. We had one little girl that was absolutely terrified the first day. She cried and cried and cried, would not come near, and at the end she was hugging the horse. So I think it's a really good thing for them.
So what do we do now?
Sit back. Anybody have any questions about any of our agencies?
I do. Just in
You
general.
might want to, we hate to do this, but they don't want to miss the, come sit here.
Here, I'll hold the mic.
Hold on. I don't know if I can. Yeah.
Come over here.
Okay. All right. Hi, my name is Lindsay. I'm actually here with KC Fire Department. We have a pet therapy program with the Money Horse, and she helps support our first responders and actually run more fatal overdoses than we do fires. So one of the initiatives in my job is trying to educate the public on our drug awareness messaging and support people in recovery. And this little Mini Horse, she helps me do it. She comes to work with me once a week. But my question is, do any of y'all have experience with like mental health horse therapy in populations of substance use disorder or addiction? I know in Canada there's been some research, but I haven't seen much in the U.S. I'm just curious if that could be an evidence pathway for people to get treatment and help.
Good question. Who's gonna answer?
And I haven't worked. I have not worked specifically with addiction, but my understanding is a lot of what we do is very similar, and that, you know, our program, we don't try to come in. We invite them to come to us. We don't talk about it as being a mental health program. It's more of, hey, you're just going to help me. And then they start, and we do have a mental health professional on staff, but then they start to learn tolerance levels and things like that. And so if we can kind of reverse some of the things that are leading to their particular issue, or with, you know, their traumatic experience popping up, then we can start to push those boundaries a little bit. They also start to learn a little bit about their own tolerance levels, not just the tolerance levels of the horse. I'm rambling a little bit, but and through that, then they start to identify their own things instead of us going, hey, what's wrong with you? And so I think it could work very similarly. I just have not had any particular experience in that.
I would say some of our studies, especially as it relates to veterans, alcohol addiction, drug addiction is obviously a byproduct oftentimes of symptoms of PTSD or depression and anxiety. So it's certainly rolled into some of the studies that we have done. And again, showcasing the positive outcomes of equine-assisted psychotherapy and therapeutic riding on that population. But I would invite you to actually encourage us to go down that path. That's one thing that we're starting to ask our community of followers and supporters and donors is, what do you want to know about the horse-human interaction? Whether it's population-specific or it's the science behind synchronization of the horse and the human. We really encourage you to submit those topics to us. Because the more that you want to know, the more we can lead that research. So
We haven't done anything with substance abuse, really, at least that I'm aware of.
Speak up a little bit.
I guess no. So.
Yeah. So in my previous work with veterans, what comes along with veterans is addiction. And I think for some of them, our unique experience of being in an outdoor environment all day, it serves as a way to break a pattern, if you will. But again, the idea behind it, and I think with horses, is to create some self-awareness, to me, addiction is very much internal. And when you're around horses, it sort of shifts the focus to the external. But it would be very interesting to see on a more of a study basis with Chloe's organization how that would happen. But you definitely, there should be a proactive path utilizing the way of the horse to sort of shift the mindset in there, for sure. And I would think there would be funding for that.
Now, do you work with, in KC, do you work with addiction and stuff with your minis?
So, okay. So specifically, when I'm a grant-funded physician, I wanted to get off the fire truck and do work daytime hours so I could do more with my horses. That's kind of how that came about. And I kind of relate to some of the stuff you said about just getting burned out, and it takes its toll on you. And we're not taught good coping skills as first responders. You're just kind of given your initial training, and you just have to figure it out. And I think that leads to a lot of just self-destructive behaviors, because you're just not given the tools to handle that. So I very much relate to that. But specifically, I wrote my middle mini horse's name is Muffin as more of a prevention side, because no one's asking the fire department to come to their school and talk about like drugs. They want the fire safety, they want the fire truck, they want the firefighters. They don't want us talking about substances. There's a lot of stigma to that. And so I was like, how am I going to get engagement for this topic? So I was like, well, what if I train my mini horse to be a therapy horse? We pass the test, I get approval from my city, and we do this. And it happened. We did it.
Awesome.
And yes, very thankful for my leadership for supporting such a creative thing, because they definitely could be like, oh no, but they didn't. So very thankful for the city of Casey and all that. But so what that's led to is we've expanded from the prevention side to going to recovery organizations. And like, I'm not a mental health professional. I am a firefighter EMT. That's my background. But we just go and we just support what's already in place. Like having a horse like in a therapy environment, or like people like in chairs or on a circle, and they just sit in the chairs and they just pet Muffin, they walk by, and we just talk about how horses can help, and they feed off our energy, just like a little basic lesson. It's very in its infancy stages, but that's kind of what I do, and I think it could be a huge benefit to the community. The state of South Carolina has received a huge amount of opioid settlement money, and I'm wondering if something could be developed with that's evidence-based to help these people, because they might not want to go to a treatment center, but they might want to come spend time with the horse, and that's how you could reach them. So that's my heart in it, and I'm just trying to learn more, and I'm learning myself. That's kind of what we do. So, yes.
Awesome. You should be on this panel.
I know.
Something.
They fund the mini horse right now, our program. So if I could fund a mini horse, could it be something bigger?
Yeah, absolutely. We should connect.
And good.
I think you really hit the nail on the head. In my work with Aiken Public Safety, the biggest challenge has been the stigma of mental health. Even talking about it, admitting, you're a firefighter. How can you be afraid? You're a police officer. Nothing bothers you. But the reality is it does. And I know one of the most common coping mechanisms is humor. Very dark, teasing each other, dark humor. But I do think that the horse has made, I know in just our limited time with Aiken Public Safety, it has absolutely transformed the idea. But again, our chief, Baranko, who is very proactive on the mental health. He loves horses, has come through, and they're just finding the whole idea, very much to like your approach, is proactive. How can we step out and get ahead of it? And utilizing horses, if anything, just breaks that stigma. The other thing, and you did share with me that you're being paid to be here today, which I think is amazing. So when the members of the agency come through our program, it is a paid day. So that's how they support. A second thing they've done is, in order to get their raise as an officer with the agency, they have to go to mental health. So if they don't go to their annual therapy session, they don't get their raise. And what that has done is just gone through and broken the stigma. And so I think the work with the horses is a great way to step in and do that, but would love to continue to explore that, because prevention is the cure.
Julie, what do you do in your program? So
our program is a very unique program that teaches participants about the body language of horses, the language of horses, how to communicate, and then we take that out into the round pen where they actually get to work with horses. So they start out with minis, which is really fun. Minis tend to break the ice. They make everybody laugh. We work with, as a group, we work with a group of loose horses, and then they step forward and actually handle individual horses themselves. And then we break for lunch, and then we actually go through and explain how a connection happens with a horse. And after lunch, they get the opportunity to go in and have an individualized connection with a primary horse. Then we do a debriefing to discuss all that we've done and learned, and then we have a dinner that kind of wraps it all up. And a key part of this is taking photos and images, which we have a professional photographer, and so they can capture that moment and look back on it. It is almost a place of reflection. Again, I akin it to the swimming with the dolphin. And it gives them the opportunity to bring up difficult discussions in their workplace and in their home place about their feelings. And many times they'll talk about it in the way of the horse. Well, this horse was angry about this and needed to move his feet. So when Dad stomps around and has to go outside, and that's just me kind of feeling better about myself. Again, it just creates a creative way for conversations. And in our partnering with Dana Ridout, who is the therapist for Aiken Public Safety, she puts the science behind it, which is really, really helpful, because again, I'm just like you. I'm just the horse crazy girl that came up with a crazy idea to spend more time with horses and hopefully help people in the process.
And they're all Aiken Public Safety?
At this point, our first partnering agency is Aiken Public Safety, and thanks to Chief Baranko, we've started at the top, and we're working our way down. And then Matt Sawyer, who is most likely going to become our next sheriff after these elections, he is going to put our program into place with Aiken County Sheriff's Department. So we find that partnering with an agency helps the entire agency understand that we are a tool in their mental health toolbox. And then they go, what do you mean a mental health toolbox? And it's like, you don't have one of those. You know, you need one. Everyone in your agency needs one. So again, trying to break that stigma of those components and across the board, I think, in anything.
I have a follow-up question for Julie and for the panel. So you said, no, come on, I'm loud. You can hear me. So you said that people get to work with an individual horse. Do you find, as you're working with people in your therapy programs, that you see certain people are drawn to certain horses? Do you find that a horse has a particular, maybe he's dominant, maybe he's frightened, and do you find people are drawn to horses with a similar issue, for lack of a better word?
Absolutely. I find they're drawn often to something they're seeking. So for example, in one of our participants, they were overwhelmed kind of by coming to this experience and with horses, and they didn't know anything about horses. And there was one of the horses in the group that is just a jokester. And he had rolled and he curled his lip up, and that person said, oh my God, that horse looked like he was having so much fun. I'm going to add some fun because my life is so serious. I picked that horse. So we do that. Sometimes someone that's a little bit quieter, a quieter horse will step in for a connection. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think everybody bonds, whether you're a firefighter or whatever. A human bonds with certain horses better than others. For us, we've dealt with the stigma that is being discussed, with firefighters and police officers, of that if you can't deal with an ugly fatal, then you shouldn't be a firefighter. I mean, you just shouldn't, because that's what you do. But we have a Belgian who is a rescue. He's 19 hands, weighs like 1,900 pounds. He's just so sweet and gentle, but gigantic. And that attracts people, attracts firefighters, because he's just so huge. I mean, how can you feel like you're not being macho if you're next to a horse whose back is 6 feet high? You know? And he just, and for him, and we had a Belgian before, Bonnie, who passed away, but they seem to attract veterans and firefighters just because they're big, they're gentle, and they're both had a rough past. The one we have now has had a really rough past, and so I think they can relate to mental trauma.
We don't have a program, so I'll let you touch on that.
So yeah, I'll just tell a little story about a recent veteran that went through our program. On the first day, the first session with us, I passed over a horse, and of course then he wanted to know all about that horse, and I said, well, that's probably the most traumatic horse that I've ever worked with. You're probably never going to get a chance to work with him. you know, and as the sessions went, he was always asking about him, and then like he was really paying attention. He's like, why when you turn him out to pasture does he doesn't interact with all the other horses? He'll be, both those horses can get in 2 pastures, he's always standing by himself. And I said, well, he can't even find safety among horses. And as time went on, we had some slight improvements, and that gentleman one day, I said, why don't you see if you can get him just to follow you back out of the pasture, back to his pen for the night. And amazingly, he made a connection with that horse. And then as he continued to tell his story at the end of the 16-week sessions, he talked about how when he came back from Iraq, he didn't want to be part of the community. He didn't want to be part of his family. And when he saw Whiskey starting to take those steps to be part of a herd, he felt that he could now start to do that same thing.
I have a question. So, I really appreciate the fact that from top down, and taking the stigma away without, not harming, but without, putting folks out of harm's way. So, like for example, when you all are doing some of the safety planning for some of the, men and women that may either be suicidal or you might think, how do you work those pieces out in regards to working with animals, working with horses, but then also, giving them a chance that I'm not going to get penalized if I actually seek help to really deal with this real issue that you all know is happening with me, but how do I address it? So how do you do that?
That's me. That's you.
So I really would credit the leadership in this specific case. Our program is new, and we only have one partnering agency at the moment. So I think how he did it was he stepped up and owned it for himself. And they have had, I couldn't even begin to tell you all the losses they've had within the department. 3 officers have been killed in the line of duty very, very sequentially. And I think he was human about it. I think he admitted himself he had trouble. He sought therapy. And then as he noticed it in his higher level staff, he would encourage them, support them, and he personally helped pull the stigma out. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, because one of the things is well, if I'm showing signs, then you're gonna pull me off
Right,
from the very thing that I love to do.
exactly.
And so how do you do that without really, hey, we're all human, and yeah, we should react.
Right, and I don't know if you want to speak
Yeah.
to this some more, because
We-
he's lived it.
For us, and that's an issue with military as well, if you're active duty and they will say that you don't have, that there's not a penalty if you seek help because you have PTSD, you just won't ever get promoted again. You know, I mean, but for us, there's a natural way to do that because we're a ranch as well. We're a ranch and we do horse rescue. And so we can have people come up, they're not getting therapy, they're going to help us out at the ranch. And
therapy.
yeah, yes, but that is therapy.
Side door.
But they don't-
Exactly. It doesn't have the stigma of
Don't
the
call
word.
it therapy.
Right, you're,
It's not therapy.
And-
It's an
Enhancing your
experience.
wellness.
It's
yeah,
an equine experience, or it's a ranch experience.
exactly. And
They had all the therapy they could handle.
right, and they're,
Hide therapy.
and they may be picking up poop for a while, but it works, yeah, because when you're picking up poop in the middle of a herd, you're around horses and you get to know the horses, and then next thing you know, you're done with that, and so then you're working on haltering them or brushing them or whatever, and you end up doing all of that without ever going to a quote unquote therapy.
Yeah, and kind of the same thing, like we have 2 different flyers. One for you guys that we're going to ask money from to support our program that pulls out all of your heartstrings. And then we have another one that goes to the veterans that just says, you want to tame a wild horse and come help us. And then along the way, they start to, again, learn some things about themselves. And I'll tell a little story. I'm a great storyteller, I guess, today. Had a veteran on his second session. He arrives early, and we can't really start until our mental health professional gets there. But he's given me the third degree, like, well, what's the goal of this program? And I'm like, well, I'm just here to teach you brain-based horsemanship. And we do that same exchange about 10 times. So finally I just said, and if something else happens, great, but if it doesn't, you're going to walk away and you're going to learn brain-based horsemanship. That particular guy, I mean, the military is very goal-oriented, so he wanted a goal. And I'm like, no, we're just going to do this. And, you know, he ended up being one of the veterans that probably got the most out of our program. And probably would not have come if we said, hey, you're going to go to a mental health program.
Our program, again, being relatively new, that is actually what, in the feedback circles that we've had since our first classes, the feedback has been presented to our officers as a leadership program as a time to come out and help on the farm. So again, the word therapy is not there. But the idea with first responders, more so than veterans, I think veterans, they're done with their duty and they're in a transition phase, like it or not, but I believe active duty military personnel as well as first responders that are still in the line of duty, that's a very different person who is still career minded. So I think setting them up as coming to help with a project is really the key way. And you know, if some other benefit comes out for you, well, that's cool.
Hang on to it.
Could you tell us some more about your research?
Sure.
Conclusions?
Specifically related to veterans or just in general? Well, they've kind of run the gamut in terms of audiences and populations that they've been focused on, from autism, youth, adults, cerebral palsy, anxiety, PTSD. As it relates to veterans, we've funded 3 studies, one of which was with equine-assisted psychotherapy with the AGALA model. The other 2 were with therapeutic riding under PATH International certifications. All were mixed in terms of men versus women, no specific breed of horse, no real parameters on that front. But again, multiple assessments around self-efficacy, coping skills, emotion regulation, stress, anxiety. Studies ranged from 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the study. All saw positive outcomes, most of which are self-reported, but it is a mix of quantitative and qualitative data. I think one of the biggest gaps that we see as a foundation, and one of the largest responsibilities that we have, is how do we not only fund this critical research that validates what the practitioners and the participants are witnessing, but how do we share that more broadly? Because, I mean, honestly, research isn't always the most fascinating read, and it's not always digestible. So how do we share it in a way that is digestible, that gets people excited, not just within the therapeutic space, but a broader understanding of horse human interactions across the board, so that maybe there is more encouragement to explore programs that don't have that therapy tagline that one might seek out on their own, or could be included in a toolbox like you were speaking to. Does that help a little bit?
We've done some research and have worked with other organizations that have done research, and more specifically with Dr. Gerke, who's on our board and a friend of ours, and that's utilizing heart monitors to determine the balance in your nervous system, and doing a before and after of a therapeutic session. And this is not expensive to do. I mean, I could do it right now with you because I've got a program on my phone, and what it does is it measures the time between your heartbeats. And if you are more stressed, that time between your heartbeat is more uniform. It's because it's just, your heart's just beating, and you tend to be more That's what happens when you're more stressed. When you're more relaxed and your nervous system is more imbalanced, that interval between the heartbeats is not uniform. It'll be bump, ba bump, bump, ba bump. And so you can measure that. And what we found helpful with that is that is objective. You can't control that. It's physiological, it's objective, and we found rather significant changes in someone that goes through a therapeutic session. And something that we've also found is that it is long-lasting, that you can go through a program that is a couple weeks long, once a week, and then come back in a month and you are still showing improvement. And so it's not just you go through a session, you feel better for 10 minutes, you get in your car, you're in traffic, and all of a sudden you're all messed up again. It has a longer lasting. You can look up. I can get you a site if you like academics and you want to read some academic papers. There are some. We have some public. Well, we didn't publish them. Dr. Gerke published them, that are evidence-based and they're peer-reviewed.
Can I tack on to that?
Yeah.
It made me think of a recent study we did in 2019 that was evaluating the psychological and physiological impacts of therapeutic riding, that was the AGALA model, with veterans. And they did heart rate variability, they measured cortisol levels, oxytocin levels, but what I love about it, one area that HHRF wants to expand is not only what's the impact on the human, but what's the impact on the horse. Because especially with veterans or PTSD, things like that, that's a very specific energy that they're bringing to that interaction that could have a negative consequence. So we would love to see more studies around equine well-being, especially in these therapeutic settings, whether it's riding or psychotherapy. But what you were mentioning made me think of that, so thank you.
And we've tried to do work exactly what you're referring to with the horse. That's really difficult. We found it anyway to be very, very difficult. With a human, you can tell a person, put your thumb right here and just sit there for 30 seconds. The horse, we're having a harder time getting them to put their hoof on the little monitor, right? Well, you need you can't, with a stethoscope, you can't really count, you can't measure it. Yeah, you need a
monitor.
Yeah, you need a monitor that, yeah.
So Wes Taylor does, I've seen in his, some of his seminars where he's got a belt that he puts around the horse and measures, I don't know whether it's heart rate or heart rate variability, but, and you can watch, it's really interesting. I mean, and just sitting here even before you said the horse or the human and the horse, I was like, oh, well, it'd be a great study at our place because we could do both at the same time.
Yeah, and it was fascinating. There was really no change for the horse that they documented. There was one outlier, but it was a horse that was new to the program, so in conjunction with the program staff talked about kind of adaptability, introducing new horses to programs like this, training that goes into it, and preparation. So that was one outlier in the study, but yeah.
Yeah, well, and I would think, so with us, like our horses are they're fresh Mustangs, so they're just off the range. We certainly are not going to get that belt on them in the first day, but maybe day two. But not too far with most of them. We could do that while they're still learning a lot of the stuff in the gentling process. So another thing that I wanted to bring up, and I kind of like your program's a little bit proactive, actually, working with them before maybe something happens. If we could get, our military spends 8 to 10 weeks tearing down our veterans to be able to do what they do, and I understand why they do that. I'm okay with that. But if they could be proactive and spend 8 to 10 weeks to discharge them out of the military or after their traumatic experience, I wouldn't have to do what I'm doing.
Exactly.
People wouldn't. Yes.
Right behind you.
And go ahead.
The Gala model, do you guys use other models
You talking to me?
All the way down the line. I know the Egala model, but it is,
So I'm actually not certified Agala or PATH or any of that. Our mental health professional is certified with, I'm going to probably get the name wrong, natural lightmanship, I think it is.
Lifemanship.
Yeah, thank you. And so we do, I have learned some of that along the way. But again, my part of the program is not actually the mental health part of it. It is to teach brain-based horsemanship, which happens to give them a path.
I got a
When-
you using Mustang.
Yes, sir.
So when you get a connection, or when that person that's in your program gets a connection, it's a true connection. It's not a trained.
Correct.
It's a lot of the programs, Julie, perfect, right? We had a program out here. We used different horses continuously. Julie and Caroline, they were big horses, thoroughbreds, that they tend, after 4 or 5 or 6 sessions, getting some of that negative energy into the horse, they tend to not want to do it anymore. But they tend to sour out or not make a strong connection or understand that it's a trained connection.
Yeah, so with how we protect our horses, even our I mean, and we do have a fresh rotation, but they're going to be with me, most of them 90 days. Some of the horses that have more traumatic experiences, like the whiskey I talked about earlier, who's been with me for 9 months. We're teaching the horse through our horsemanship program to be able to downregulate itself. That's our actual goal with the horse. I don't have specific things. We do specific things before they go out for adoption, but I don't look for specific things. I'm looking more to have a horse that's going to have a foundation of being able to self-downregulate itself. So when it's presented with a situation that it doesn't know is safe, it can go, oh, wait a second, I'm with this human, nothing's bad ever happened when I'm with this human, and it can relax itself out. Alex may be able to tell you a little bit about our story when we went to the Rocky Mountain Horse Expo 2 years ago with a Mustang, 2 Mustangs, and they showed us where we're going to do our demonstration, and it's in the back of the exhibit hall. Of course, I asked where the back door was, and they're like, no, you got to come in the front door. And I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be fun. And those guys did exactly what we wanted them to do. And that was, oh, wait, that flashing light, that kid running around worries me, but wait a second, I can get through that. That's exactly the same thing that we want our veterans to be able to do once they go through our program as well. And by them teaching the horse how to do that, they start to see that they can teach themselves to do that.
I want to tie in one more thing on the research. We all get excited about at least.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we get excited about the research. Yeah, and one reason for that is that the research that we have now can prove that it works. Alex and I have worked with the Colorado Judicial, and we did a presentation at the Judicial Conference a few years ago with all the judges, and their number one question is, okay, you say it works, how do I know it works? What's your evidence-based theories, and how do we know that? And the research now is exciting because I think I can prove to you, if you're objective, I can prove to you it works. And that's really helpful when you're talking to law enforcement or firefighters or anybody. It's not, I mean, we use a PANAS test as well, which is more subjective. It's the little 5 smiley faces thing, and that's subjective. But when you have your heart rate variables or other, you meant,
Quantitative data?
no, your not cortisol.
Oxytocin?
No,
Heart rate variability?
no, cortisol. A cortisol test, that's objective.
Yeah.
You can't fudge that. So, anyway.
done some stuff with like music therapy with some elderly. I'm just wondering. I know that can be challenging sometimes. How do horses work with nursing home or elderly?
I can do that one because we did a nursing home. We took the horses to Anchor Nursing Home here in Aiken, and a couple of times I think we took them. And our horses have to be certified to go out in public, and so they have to be quiet, they have to stand still, and some of that they learn on the job, but we did the nursing home. We went in this little tiny square. I thought it was a little too tight, and they came out in the wheelchairs and stretchers, and we got as close as we could, and they petted the horses, and then we went, took a little walk and went to the front of the building and lined up, and they brought out a man in a wheelchair, and they went to one of our horses, who's a very, very good horse, and the horse for some reason put his foot in the front of the wheelchair and then realized what he had done, started to pull back. Oh my gosh, this man was terrified. And we, got the foot out, and so at that point we realized we're not going to ride the horses at this kind of an event. We're going to, hand walk them. But it brought so much joy to those nursing home patients, and so, yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a comment. I was a 30-year EMT and did some EGALA training, and I found interesting your conversation about the therapy, the term. If you don't want to label anybody, this and that. But the other thing I did was through Dartmouth was got high ropes training and low ropes, where we would train the students coming in for Dartmouth Medical School, and it's about empowering. And they came in as timid four-year grads, starting a huge program. They're not trauma from drugs or PTSD or anything like that, but in some ways it was the same. They're being thrown into a study group, they don't know these people, they're panicking, and all of a sudden you get them up on a 40-foot high wire, and they find out they can do it. And which is what happened to me, even through my certification of it. And it's the empowering that they find, and that horses can give, and, without being overpowering to a horse, and knowing that there's going to be feedback too. So it's an interesting sort of change. I did not get fully involved with EGALA because it's not really offered up in the Northeast too readily, as it is out west. But then when the high ropes thing opportunity came along, as firefighter and EMT, we all jumped on it, or as many that jumped on it. And it's pretty amazing. Turn around and find somebody who goes really timid and nervous, and with some issues, to being walking away 2 days later going, I can't believe this is that. Use therapy.
One more question?
Anything else?
I'll say
How are we
something
on- how
about
are we on time?
Okay, let's talk about Mustangs. That's why we're here. So my Mustang, she's 12 years old, and this is all new to her, doing anything like this. And she's just been a gem. I mean, she's been amazing. But her personality, and my question is going to be to everyone else with Mustangs, her personality is such that when something scares her, she wants to approach it. And she approaches it, and then she's like, kind of like what you were talking about with the humans. So she'll approach danger. She doesn't run from it. The other thing is she's extremely lazy. So this job of walking around in the community and letting people pet her and touch her is like the perfect job for this Mustang. And my question is that a typical Mustang personality? Oh, I was going to talk about trust too. It did take her a while. You've got to get that trust from your horse, and then they'll do anything for you. And Mustangs take a little longer to, trust you. But, so, Mustang personalities?
Scott, what do you think?
I guess. So I mean, if we look at it in our horsemanship, and learning, the Mustang, and we'll use the Mustang since we're talking about Mustangs. It's been given two abilities. One, the ability to spook very easily, but also it will return because it's curious about that same thing that it just spooked about. And that's its way to evaluate safety. I mean, every decision the Mustang makes is about safety. So once we know that, then it becomes much easier to work with the Mustang. And it really is part of that learning process. If you watch us in our demonstrations, we're going to go to concerned curiosity, which is kind of what you were explaining, where she wants to go into what the very thing that she's afraid of, but we'll release our pressure. That's what she's going to do herself naturally, and then she's going to relax and learn that it was safe at that point in time, then probably walk right back to that same thing and get a little bit closer. And the only thing that we're going to do different is try to control it to optimum levels. She might not always do it to return to safety, which we're going to try to let her return completely to safety, stay immobile while she's processing, because she'll learn better just like we do. So.
I'll speak to that just a little bit. As my background, I consider myself an equine behavior specialist, and I think the gift that the Mustangs have is that they're unadulterated by humans.
They don't lie.
And they don't lie. They don't, horses born in domestication, and I've seen this from, I mean, I've made my living training all kinds of horses, including Mustangs, but there's something about the Mustang that it is very straightforward. Safety is their number one thing. And I think too often, depending how a horse has been raised, safety might not be anywhere on their radar. They might be food driven, they might be pet driven, they might already, take the thoroughbreds, which I've done a bunch of work with off the track thoroughbreds. They're put in a stall usually by the age of 1 and put in really intense training. So their perception of the world is very different based on their experience. They tend to like claustrophobic spaces because they feel safe. The Mustang, forget it. Like claustrophobia, and particularly depending how the roundup went and what has happened to them since the roundup, or if they're being born in a holding facility, all of that shapes, is it nature or is it nurture? I think that is the $1 million question.
Any other questions?
But I do want to mention that there's a PBS documentary, it's a short documentary on a veterans program that's run outside of Chicago in Woodstock, Illinois. Patty Gruber, we're running the film tonight, The Mustangs Life as Wild Horses, but they have come in and done a short documentary on her woman's veterans program that she runs there. It just got nominated for an Emmy, so this is like super cool. So the facility is called Operation Wild Horse, and so but it's like really cool that this film has got nominated for an Emmy. So
That's amazing.
very, very good. So thank you.
Hang on, I want to get the last part in, the very important part. And no, I'm going to pass it because I think several other people are going to want to do the same thing. So our veterans program, we're a nonprofit Mustang Adoption Academy. We need funds to continue our veterans program. Find us at mustangadoptionacademy.com.
Thank you. Again, Horses and Humans Research Foundation, our mission is to fund the research to support these programs. And our website is www.horsesandhumans.org. So thank you.
And we're 10th Mountain Equine. Our website is 10me.org. And Alex over there and I are also doing a podcast. We hope to have our first podcast in mid-October. Our ranch is at 9,300 feet in the Colorado Rockies, and we're 6 miles off grid. So having horses off grid that high is just interesting. It's just different than other things that you have. So.
My organization is called Leg Up Experience, and we're here in Aiken, South Carolina. We are a nonprofit, and our website is legupexperience.org.
We're the Aiken Volunteer Mounted Unit. We have a Facebook page, Aiken Volunteer Aiken Unit, and a website, although we really need to work on our website. One thing I forgot to say is that we partner with the Large Animal Rescue Team here, and they are amazing. And so many people don't know about the Large Animal Rescue. they had to come under, I guess, our umbrella as we're a nonprofit, and because they're all sworn officers, that's the way they had to do it. But you can tell people in Aiken about LART, Large Animal Rescue. They're so good.
And I'll just add one little closing story about that. As the guys came in, the gentleman that heads up that organization was at one of our initial meetings, and he said whenever there is a horse rescue, he selects 6 individuals, officers, to come and execute the rescue. But I don't know how many, 25 or 30 are actually trained to do that. And he said what happens is after the rescue, the ones that didn't get to attend are really angry with him. So that just prompted us. I said, well, if these guys are really getting a lot out of rescuing horses that are in dire straits, imagine what they'll get out of a horse that isn't in dire straits. So it's really neat. I think we have such a cool panel here. Everybody's intermixed with the mission and the goal to help horses, help people, help horses. So, yay.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And in a few seconds, our next panelist is here. It's Dr. Elizabeth Woosley. You need to hook up to the TV, right?
Well, I can, but I can do it without.
Then let's do it without, and let's do it right here.
I can do it without.
Chloe, I want to talk to you just for a second. Sure. Okay. I need Chloe first.
Hey, what do you want me to do with this?
What?
The money.
Okay. Who's got it?
I'm giving it to you because I don't know who to give it to.
Okay, I got it. I'll get it to
Who do we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just need her for 1 minute to introduce you to
Yeah, don't get close.
talk loud.
Yeah, I will.
You'll probably actually need to hold the mic.
Okay, where is, oh, right here? Okay.
It's a big fuzzy one, but they said when it's that far out, it just picks up all the background.
Oh, shoot. I picked my nose. I thought about it when you said, well, we'll try it. I figured out how I could do it.
And we're live streaming, so we're just talking to your mic on live stream.
Okay, you guys ready?
The next panel.
No, I've got a flight to Maine.
Exactly. Our next panelist.
Yep.
So, our next Hi, yes, you can go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Woolsey. I'm a retired veterinarian. My quick story is I was raised in California. Pretty sure that Roy Rogers was my real father because my father was a horse vet and he was always gone. Well, guess what I became? A horse vet. And guess what my kids would say? She was always gone. So I want to talk to you today about some of the experiences that I had. And I have to say, I did a rescue the other day. and it was just out of the blue. Our county does not have any form of a rescue unit. A horse was stuck in a ditch upside down, and they didn't have, the fire department was unavailable, and when they did show up, they had no idea what to do. So fortunately, they had some of those wide web nylon ropes that I was able to use to pull the horse off to its side, move it around. We didn't have a glide. I don't know if you guys know what a glide is, but we didn't have that. And then flipped it over, and then I won't tell you how we got it up. But I never in a million years thought this horse would get up. Now I was a vet for over 35 years, and I did a lot of rescues. I also worked at 3 different veterinary schools, and I'm quite experienced for horses not getting up because I taught anesthesia. So I thought, there's no way this horse is going to get up, but it did, and it's still alive and doing really well. And it's like the first thing I've done in 3 years since I retired, so I was pretty excited. Of course, I wanted to put that on Facebook, and people said, oh no, my God, please don't, because everybody around here will find 25 ways to say that you did it wrong. And I'm going, yeah, the horse is up. Anyway, so Lisa had asked me a long, long time ago to come and to speak to a group someplace. And I found out about Lisa and the Equus Arts and Film Festival, and I thought, gee, man, if I could win a ribbon or something with my books, I would be so excited. And I did the first year, and then I came back the next year and I did it again. And so it's not the Pulitzer Prize, but it's the ribbon and the trophy are sitting in the Booth Western Art Museum. Now I'm not sure if you guys know about that. It's been voted the best external Smithsonian museum in America. And it's all devoted to horses and Western art, and kind of the periphery kind of things. It's a really big deal. And my book was sitting in the window of the display where they wanted to, acknowledge, because I'm a member of the Writers Guild. Well, I've been demoted. I'm now the president of it. So if you guys anybody's interested in writing and you live anywhere near, probably I would say the western part of Georgia, please get a hold of me and I'll get you going on it. It's a really good organization, and I have never taken anybody to that museum, and I take people that have never even been close to a horse, and they come back going, I can't believe that. That's probably the best thing that I've done. So I hope you guys at some stage will have a look at that. It's online, Booth Western Art Museum. Just check it out. Anyway, so I got kind of crazy towards the end of my retirement, or close to my retirement, end of my practice, and I thought, what the heck am I going to do? My father totally failed at retirement. Failed. He was back doing stuff here and there, little bits of stuff that he shouldn't have been doing, but he did, and I went, no, I'm not going to do that. And so one of the things that I did was I actually practiced in Australia for the last 30 years of my practice, and I did not renew my license there once I retired a week before the license was due, and I didn't renew, and so I don't have a veterinary license, so I can't go back and work. I do a lot of consulting. Last year I spoke at the veterinary conference for Washington State. I'm going back to Washington to talk to their backcountry horsemen, and I do a lot of speaking and things like that. I've actually even published a few extra papers since I've retired. But basically, my love is my writing now. Well, that and fly fishing. So I moved to Georgia. I live up in the mountains, and I just live in this idyllic place where I fish. I ride during the summer with my friend Nancy, who brings her horses up from Florida to get out of the heat, and then she takes them back in the winter, and it's kind of wintry anyway, so it's okay with me. But since I've been in Aiken, just driving through, and I just got here, I'm thinking, boy, if they had trout here, this is so beautiful. I'd be interested. I'd be real interested. But I don't think you have trout. So anyway, I'll stick with where I am. 2 years before I retired again, I wrote my first book. And I started sending a few pages to really critical people. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the most critical people in my life are my sisters. I mean, there is nothing that I can't do that will pass. And pretty soon, their big thing is, what are you doing working? There's some bug here, sorry. What are you doing working? For goodness sakes, there's, you know, you need to be writing. I need some more chapters. And so I kind of thought, gee, maybe I'm onto something. So I started writing about, and the first book that I wrote is called The Travels of Dr. Rebecca Harper, A Matter of Time. And time is the key in all this, because she's a vet like me. She's a year older than me, so we're not the same. Let me just put it there. She's a year older. And she graduates from veterinary school, goes out to near Lake Tahoe to interview for a job and potentially buy a practice out near Lake Tahoe. She's married and she has a little girl, and she's in a rock slide, and she time travels back to the time of, let's see, what television program was near Lake Tahoe during the 50s and 60s? Bonanza. So I wrote this all using the Bonanza characters. And I taught, before I got too far along, my critical sister said, you better check with them. And I did. And they went, yeah, we're pretty much into that. We think that's a good idea. And I kept going on, and I kept saying, well, I kind of need to make sure, so can you just, you know, sign something or something like that? Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will. Well, a couple years later, we're still at, yeah, we will. And finally, I went, oh, man, come on. Do you work better with a deadline? If I say next month, and the guy said, well, it's just taking longer than I thought. And I'm still interested, and apparently he said he owned the rights. To this day, I'm not 100% sure. But he said, you know, we only own the names. And I went, bingo. So basically, my character, Rebecca Harper, time travels back to the 1800s and lives and meets the Buchanans. And the Buchanans is a father with 3 sons. Gee, what does that sound like? Anyway. In the town and near Virginia City, and now they couldn't copyright that. So they couldn't copyright Lake Tahoe. So the story goes on, and she wants to endear herself to these people, and she notices when she goes to their house, she's still trying to figure out what the heck has happened, because she's not even 100% sure this is really what it is, but she sees a foal with what those people would call bandy legs, and you would call knock-kneed, and some people that are a lot more sophisticated, like me, would say carpus valgus, or carpal valgus, which means knock-kneed. And so here's a woman that has to deal with a foal. She can't x-ray it. There's no x-rays back in the 1800s. She can't ultrasound it. There were no ultrasounds even when she left school. And she has to deal with this. Well, it's well known for years and years, and without anything exciting, that if you just shave the outside of their hoof, you take the pressure off of the outside and put the pressure on the inside of the hoof, and that translates up, and a lot of foals, that's all they need, and they will straighten out. So she does that. So that's the first story that I used, and it was very, I really thought long and hard about it, and I think she also did a dystocia, and of course these people are very paternalistic and very macho, and they are not going to let a woman in on this. But she kind of finally just steps in, reaches in, and pulls this foal's leg out that's cocked back. So over time, during the first book, and there's 4 books in this series, and I'm currently writing the 5th, other veterinary things come up. And I have to be really careful. You have to remember, well, what things would she know about? You know, she wouldn't know about ultrasounds. She wouldn't know about new diseases. She would know about things like salmonella. She would know about anthrax and things like that. But there were things that I could not put in those books. And I have to always be mindful. Now, in the meantime, through various means, she gets an education for what's new or what's more up-to-date. I won't say how, got to read the books to see. But she does learn a few things. But basically, you know, you're pretty limited on what you can do. So the stories are more about her and her life, living with the characters that are similar to Bonanza. And there's lots of, you know, fun things about it, like, I don't know if you guys, did you ever watch that series, any of you? Okay. Well, men spanked women. Now, that is not something she was going to put up with. And they were chauvinistic. They were very racist, and even as good as Hop Sing had it, he still ate in the kitchen. And so these were things that she wanted and tried to change in her character and her time. So those kind of things come up. But as far as veterinary medicine, she's pretty limited on what she can do. So the next book that I wrote, oh, I didn't bring it. Okay, so that's this book here. The next book, I forgot to bring the copy of it, is a book called Small Town Secrets. And of course I lived in Australia, and I practiced in a rural area of South Australia. And so I wrote a story about a young vet who would be much younger than me, who would have all the modern things known to man, who moves to this very rural area. I never say the town, but I'm thinking of a town called Burra, and it's a real town. And she's accused of murder. And she's accused of drugging her babysitter and this older woman with phenobarbital. In the process of all of this, she meets a much younger vet who's also from America, and she negotiates the legal system. And of course, she does do some veterinary work until she's let go because of her potential conviction. And we do some reproduction. She goes out with another young vet, and she does a cattle C-section, and she really does much more modern things. So that one was an easy one to do. Now, the next book that I wrote was called Catch and Release, and that's a series as well. There's 3 books in that series. I will do a 4th, but it's a long ways off. So in this one, a woman who was very much like me, was raised in America, married an Australian, moved to Australia like me, got a divorce like me, had kids like me, and then she decided to retire and move to the mountains in America so she could fish, write books, and fly fish like me. The thing is, she did it before I did it. It's exactly, I followed her. Now, I had planned to, but I didn't plan to quite as much as it actually ended up being. I'm sorry, I got a cold, there's no question about it. That's why I'm kind of sitting away from everybody.
and I've got a little bit of a, I'm apparently getting a bit of a cough. So, and I'm COVID negative. Let's make that really clear. So, there's all kinds of stories that come from that, but in that book, she develops this relationship with this horse, which we named Digger. And he's a quarter horse. He's a well-trained, beautiful horse. She can do just about anything with him. And he, at the very end of the book, he breaks with diarrhea. Now, I have a lot of people that have warned me about writing books. Anybody can die, but never let the horses die. Never. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. So, I have to give a cause for this diarrhea and a treatment. And so, here's an interesting thing. So, you guys, you've heard of Potomac horse fever.
Yep.
Okay, do y'all vaccinate for it here or not? Don't? Okay. Well, there is a vaccine. I'm pretty sure it's still out. Potomac horse fever was named for the East Coast and near the Potomac River, where a whole bunch of horses got the spirochete. It's a little spirochete, kind of like a bacteria. And the person that actually discovered the life cycle and what was really causing it is a fellow named John Madigan. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of John Madigan, but he's a very famous veterinarian from UC Davis. He and I were undergraduate classmates together, and he got into vet school way before me and got out and started practicing, and then moved back into academia. Curious man, very interesting man. He is one of the gods of veterinary medicine for horses. And he went up to Northern California, where I first practiced, and found the same disease. Although they didn't know it was the same at the time, but it didn't take long to figure out it was the same. And he discovered the life cycle. It had been in Northern California for a long time. So when I moved up there, I met an older vet up there, and he said, and I was going to do some relief work for him. And he said, get ready for what we call the Shasta shits, which is he says it's diarrhea. We don't know where it comes from, but it's a spirochete, and I can show you it. It's in the manure. If you get one of these, this is how you treat it. And he said, you give it tetracycline and a lot of fluids, and you pray a lot. Well, it turned out it was the exact same disease. And so he said, when I have a case and you're around, I'll show you what that spirochete looks like. Nobody that I know of has ever seen the spirochete in the manure, but they have found it in the blood, and they can do these PCRs and tests like that to tell that you have that. That guy was ahead of his time too, and I think he probably was the person that got John Madigan up there.
he said he didn't ever remember doing one standing other than this one that we did. So who knows where it came from. So anyway, I wrote about it in this book where this girl does this and kind of wins the respect of these two old vets. And then I've written a book, and this is a book that, I don't know if any of you have young people that want to be vets, but this is for young people. This is a YA book, you know, young adult. I wouldn't give it to a 6-year-old because there's a lot of, there is some euthanasia in there, and animals die, but I've noticed, I can't begin to tell you how many people I've met that have gone all the way through veterinary school and then quit because they just can't handle the level of euthanasia. Now, these tend to be small animal people because you do a lot of euthanasia for not really good reasons, whereas in equine, generally it's a good reason. I can think of 1 or 2 horses that I euthanized where the horse was okay, but the client wasn't. And I was like, I will say one of them was one of my old clients in California actually had metastatic colon cancer, and he was young, and he had a wife and 2 small kids, and he had a lot of horses, and he was able to sell all but 2 of them, and the 2 were left, and he knew he had days to live, and he asked me to do it, and I did. Other than that, and I kept saying, can I please just find him homes? No, I just need to know. I'm not going to live much longer. I need to know that my wife is not going to be burdened with this. And I did it. So I've never forgotten that. You know, it's not like something that I like that I did, but I did do it. But small animal vets, because they're under the pressure of their boss, have to do it a lot, and they don't like it. Well, this book, kittens and puppies in this book. It's real life stories, and it's on in a certain category for, you know, young kids for careers or something at most of the time. Anyway, that's a you can find on Amazon. So then I'm going to stop with this last one. This is called Match the Hatch. This is book 3 in what I call the Catch and Release series. And this is, that's Digger. You can't see it right there, but that's Digger. Anyway, so she tells a story, and this is again a true story about a Christmas Eve happening. And so this really happened to me. So I work every Christmas Eve no matter what, because it's the breeding season in Australia. And so I'm still breeding mares, I'm still doing stuff. I can't ever remember not having a case at the clinic except for one time. And that one time, about 2 days before Christmas, I had a little pony come in with a choke. Are you familiar with choke, where they get something stuck? Christmas carrot toxicosis is what I called it. Anyway, so it got stuck in there, and I've got pictures of me sitting there going like this, holding an IV, trying to get this thing to pass, this little miniature horse to pass this carrot, and she finally passes it on Christmas Eve, and I call the owner and I say, she's passed it, Merv, get down here. I'm changing her. She's gone from being hospitalization to boarding, but boarding is $150 an hour. Get here now. And he was down within an hour, so to pick her up. So I always make turkey for Christmas, which is very unusual for Australia. Everybody does seafood for Christmas in Australia, but I have this cult following of Americans and a few of my friends that come because they want a Christmas turkey. So I've got the turkey in the oven, everything's going well, and I get a call from one of my really good clients that their neighbor's horse has run through some fences. And it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody's going to be there at 6. So we end up going to, I end up going there, and I had a friend who had stopped in early, and I said, watch the turkey. My kids were actually away too. I mean, it was like going to be a dream Christmas for me. And so I ended up going up to this horse that was really cut up on her hind legs. She had gone through a fence. Everybody that knew anything about the horse was not there. This woman's parents were there. Now, they never even went in the pen with her because they were afraid of her. They didn't tell me that, but that's the truth. And the lady that called me that was my good client, she was still at her Christmas breakup dinner, and she said, I'll be there as quick as I can. So I go over the fence, catch this horse, bandage it all up. I'm getting ready to pull out a tetanus because nobody knows if it had a tetanus or not, and started on some antibiotics. And I thought, well, I'll give them powder because I can see these are elderly people, but I'll start with a shot of penicillin just to get it going. And as I pulled up, as I went under the fence, the daughter she said, oh my God, what's going on? And I said, well, your horse went through a fence, it's really cut up. And she goes, yeah, but how'd you get the bandage on? I said, I just cleaned it up and put it on. She goes, did you try to sedate her or anything? I went, no. I said, she was really good. And so she goes, I can't believe it. And so I said, well, I threw the rope over the fence, and I said, I just want to give her a tetanus and a penicillin. Bang, 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 and stuck the needle in, and that horse was gone. And she went through another fence. And she didn't cut herself that time, but by then, my neighbors, who were very, very good horse people, caught the horse, and between them and me, we were able to get her close and get so I could start. And the lady goes, and this horse is really old, and I'm really mad at this young lady that owns the horse because she's burdened her parents for years. And this is something I found quite commonly in practice, that as a teenager or as a young girl, you get a pony or a horse, and then you go to school or go to college or move away, get married, and you leave the horse with your parents. And the parents feel guilty about not, wanting this horse to go. They don't want to do it anymore, but they love their daughter, and the daughter comes up to visit because the horse is there and all those things. And so, we kind of discussed it a bit, and I said, there's no way you're going to treat this. And she goes, no. And I said, there's really nothing wrong with her. I said, and of course, I didn't know them. I wasn't their regular vet. The regular vet, who lived not very far away, was across town. That vet was across town every night after 6 o'clock. He was never, ever in his area. He was always across town. And so, which is a euphemism for I'm not taking the call right now because it's Christmas Eve. So we, they talked about it, and they all conferred, and they came back and they said, well, will you euthanize her? And I said, and she was she was at least 28, and the wounds were pretty bad, but I knew eventually they would heal, but no, who was going to take care of this? And so we ended up euthanizing her. So I came back, and I just was kind of consumed with guilt about everything. We started working on the turkey, and the same couple that called me originally called, and I said, go away, I don't even want to hear from you. And I'm thinking, did the horse wake up? What the heck happened? So they went, no. They said, there's another horse, there's a pony that belongs to a little girl, and we think it needs to be put down. We haven't been there yet, but they've told us. The reason they were called is because the husband, Rodney, is the main guy that buried his Rodney Warren. He buries 90% of the horses up in this particular area. So I'm going, oh my God. I said, I've got 10 people coming here in an hour. And they said, all you gotta do is get up here, put the horse pony down. We promise you, from what they're telling me, it's not gonna live. Its gums are purple, it's sweating, it's rolling around. So by then 2 friends were there, and they said, what's going on? I said, oh, nothing. And they went, go. We're gonna take care of dinner. So I leave again, and now I've got an hour until all of my guests are there. And I get up there, and there is about 8-year-old girl, and she is hysterical. And there is a little pony that is rolling around, and it's exactly what they said. The gums are purple, it's distended, it's kicking, it's sweating bullets. This pony is not going to live. But you couldn't even get close to it because it was rolling so violently that it would just throw its legs one way, throw its leg the other. And this girl is just absolutely hysterical. So I walk over to the parents, and my friends Rodney and Fiona are there by now. And they told me the story. This little girl worked for two summers doing odd things to be able to have a new halter, a new lead rope, and a blanket because she was going to Pony Club camp right after New Year's. And she'd had this pony for about a year. She loved the pony, but her goal was to go to Pony Club camp. Pony Club is huge in Australia. So, and it doesn't matter, Western, English, even racehorses, the kids go to Pony Club. So, so I am like starting to lose it. And I tried to, there was nothing. I knew this horse I knew I couldn't save this pony. I absolutely knew it. And so what I did was I just got down on my hands and knees and crawled up, and when it flipped back away from me, I just stabbed it with some multiple painkillers. And then I sat back. And then she's crying and she's, yelling, don't put him down, don't kill my horse. And the parents took the kid, the little girl, into the house, and there was a ton of people. It was in a round pen, a ton of people just standing around looking like this. And there was a variation of grief going on with these people, right from almost hysterical to older men standing there gripping that fence like you wouldn't believe, knowing how bad this was. So I got the job done, and people start to kind of stand back and kind of look away and stuff. There must have been 10 or 15 people, I don't remember exactly how many. And so the father comes back out of the house, and you can just hear the little girl wailing in the background. And I have a hard time finishing this. So the father comes and he says, well, how much do I owe you? And I'm thinking about this euthanasia of convenience for this one family, and this terrible euthanasia for this other family. And I said, and I didn't even collect the money from the other people. I just said, I'll send you a bill. I said, this is really an unusual situation, but I did one right before them. You can ask Fiona and Rodney, and they're standing kind of behind me. And I said, those people were so grateful that I came out that they paid me twice the amount. So you don't owe me anything. And I got my car. I drove down the road, and then boom, I lost it. Absolutely, just could not control myself for several minutes. Finally, got myself together. I got back to the house, and I ran into the office, which is attached, and used the water and stuff to clean myself off. And I had dirt because I'd crawled, and just was just muddy. But the tears I probably had brown stains going down my face. Got that all cleaned up, got back into the house, got some new clothes on, and came back out. And everybody said, how'd it go? I said, great. So those are the kind of stories that I use in books. There's some other ones besides that. I will tell you one more really quickly. I went out to see a horse, and it is in one book. I went out to see a horse that had penile paralysis. You know what that is? They call it paraphimosis. The penis could not retract. I did a rectal on this horse, and he was a stallion, and he was equipped orchid. And they always say if you don't get that testicle in the abdomen out, you're going to get a tumor. And I'd seen so many that had never had a tumor. This one had a tumor, and it was so big. It took up, it was like this, inside the abdomen. So, and it belonged to this old man, and he himself did not have long to live. I could see it. And it's a multi-generational family. They're very, very poor. There's the father who's just going, she doesn't know what she's talking about, the grandfather. The kids are going, are you sure there isn't something? Can't we just do surgery? Can't we do this? We don't have $2 to put together, you know, but you know, it didn't matter. There was nothing you were going to fix with this. And there were these 3 or 4 kids, and one of my nurses went with me, and she was kind of distracting the 3 or 4 kids while we were having the hard discussion. And this little boy leaves and he goes into the house and he comes back out with this little book about care of ponies. And he said, is there any chance you would look at this and see if there's something here that you could help my grandpa's horse? So, all kinds of stories. Any questions?
I came in late, the spirochete. Were you talking about Potomac horse?
Yes.
In Australia?
Well, there is a spirochete diarrhea like that. They get a high fever. They look fine one night, and the next night they're in a pool of diarrhea. They've got a high fever. They looked exactly like Potomac horse fever horses. No, but they did find some spirochetes, and then they said, and I said, well, what are you going to do with it? They said, well, we threw it out. So that was one pathology lab. I didn't use them again for 20 years. I moved to a different one. And I said, if I send you one of these, and I told them why I was switching to this one, and I said, if I send you one of these, you need to go to great lengths to find out if, you know, what it is, and maybe do some PCRs, at least hold some blood and freeze it or something.
Do they have EPM in Australia?
No.
They don't have
Nope. No, they have they have possums. They aren't the same. They're They're just called possums, but no, they don't. Yeah. There's a few diseases. We had a outbreak of West Nile in Australia, and I had 50 cases, and I have videos. I'm sorry that we didn't do the thing, because you could see the pictures of all of these cases. I mean, I have everything. I don't have. There's some I don't have, but there's an awful lot of them that I do have, and I find ways to put these in these books.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, I have one thing to give away.
Oh,
So,
aren't you nice?
well, you have to answer a question. So, who knows what the capital of South Australia is? What did you say? No.
Perth?
No. 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 No.
We're not good at
Yeah. Well, neither was I. Trust me. Where am I going? I had no idea where this place was. Yes, you got it. Adelaide.
That was a nice town. I like that.
Have you been there?
Yes. My 10th anniversary one for a month.
All right. Yeah.
Great.
Well, I've made 2 trips this year. My kids still live there, and one of them was in ICU for 11 weeks.
Oh.
So, and I'm telling you, human practice isn't much better than here. For 5 weeks, I begged them to try a different antibiotic and consider a different bacteria, and they refused to.
finally I said, okay, I've had enough, I want a second opinion. And the second opinion agreed with me, and instantly she got better after 11 weeks of being in ICU. So instead of using meropenem, which is hundreds and hundreds of dollars a day, they went to tetracycline, which is like $10 a week, and she got better. So happened. Well, it was. It's such a long story, but basically they just because the bug that I was interested in was such a simple bug, it couldn't possibly be what's causing all these problems. I said, she's been on the same antibiotic for now, 8 weeks, and she's not any better. You've got to consider the other one. You know the other one's there. And they kept saying, well, it's just not that. And I said, she's immunocompromised. She has MS, and she's on a drug that suppresses her immune system. I said, do you want me to show you the papers? Oh, I've already read them. And they still wouldn't do it. So I finally got the second opinion guy. Bing. He said, yeah. And so they tested her. She was positive in her chest, in her abdomen, and her knee. And her knee is still bad. But she's getting better, and she lived. And it was really touch and go. So anyway, yeah, but it's a beautiful city. Beautiful place to live. Just such, I mean, you can see from my stories, you probably wouldn't get these stories here. You know, people aren't they aren't poor. They're not I don't know, there's just so many things that went on. It's a real rich story environment. It really is. I've just written another book for there, but it has very little to do with veterinary medicine. But I just love the area. Okay. My pleasure. Oh my God. Well, as I came over, I started feeling better and better and better. And then when I got here, I went, what are the drugs? I need the drugs.
Trust me, I understand that. I think we're gonna flip through the next panel in 10 minutes so that she's gonna use this slide. So we have 10 minutes in between now and the next panel. And Charlie is gonna be behind. Are the minis in there? They were the little.
I see a mini right here.
Yeah. Okay, so they're in there. So Charlie's gonna be doing his presentation. He's sending the people over there for the little in two places. Because I can't walk over without the box.
Oh my goodness. I did not see this creature. Oh my, it matches the fence. Thanks for,
Oh my gosh, I'd hug you, but I can't hug you. I can't get sick right now.
No. Well, neither could I.
You guys had a vibe. I know Teal.
I'm gonna take off. I hate to be so antisocial, but I just feel like I don't want to give this to anybody. I was in a meeting with 5 people at a big round table, and the guy across from me said, I have a cold, it's a sniffle. And I'm going, have you been tested? And he goes, yeah, I've tested. And so 2 days later, I've got it. And I know it's him, so I know it's catchy.
So you're part of a panel. That's what she was just saying.
Anna Maria, can you get this table?
It's not the way.
I know better.
It's not the way it was written out. But
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What that means.
Okay, I can't read. Charles, where's the?
No, I mean, I think I still sit up there and speak.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. But go look on her sheet there on that white right there on that table. I can't really read it. It's on my glasses.
What am I looking at?
What's it say by your name at 3 o'clock? God, these flies are nuts.
Where does this,
Filmmaker question
where does
and
this
answer.
get broadcast to?
I think YouTube. Guest filmmaker question and answer. That's what it said.
So it was live on YouTube?
Or are they just recording it for repeat?
They're probably gonna just post it.
I forgot to bring my phone up from my car. I was going to get a picture of me doing that, but it's okay. I survived it.
Did you have like a PowerPoint?
Yes. Yeah, but
how did that work? Did she take your computer or did she take
No. Well, I just said, because everybody's facing this way, and I just went, you know what, I'm not gonna worry about it, because she
you didn't
told
even
me
use
it
it?
might not work, so I brought the books as kind of a thing, but it
All
showed
right.
a picture of all the people and everything,
Whatever.
so, I'm sitting.
So, okay, but like, would she have used your computer or would she have used
I've got a
flash
stick, I got a flash drive.
So I
and
just
got-
can get, I have that too. I have both.
Yeah.
She could just decide what she
Oh,
wants.
okay, what are you talking about?
I am talking about my comeback story from breaking my back as an inventor and then competing
really?
again 18 months later. And then
Where
I
are
wrote
you
a book
from?
about it.
Here?
North Carolina. Well, originally not, but
And when did this happen?
2015.
I don't think you would know her. And I think it happened before
Yeah,
then.
I think I have to go.
I have a client from California who broke her back and she died. And then I had two.
She died?
And I had two in Australia that died. It happens.
That's why people want to hear the story because I didn't. I invented 18 months after.
Wow.
But it wasn't for any reason than I just bounced and I was lucky.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Better your back than your neck.
Well, if I wasn't feeling like what I would like to say, HGS and or dog stuff, I would stay and listen, but
no,
I'm just
you're
like,
right. Please look at that YouTube. Please, I have just assumed it didn't.
yeah, oh, I hope it's on YouTube.
It will be on. Good to meet you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I don't know why they're.
I will listen to your story.
What's your name?
Elizabeth Woolsey.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. What's your name? Okay.
I think they were turning people up to that direction as opposed to here. But I don't know.
Eventing was huge where I was. In fact, we had 2 gold medalists from our state, our tiny little state.
That William Fox,
Hold on.
Fox.
Do we know where the person is?
I don't know.
I'm texting her to tell her.
Is that her? The white
Well, that's Julie. Now she's in charge of it. She would know. Okay, see you guys.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to meet
Yeah.
you.
I'm just sort of the babysitter, so I don't really know.
You're doing a hell of a job, man.
I told her when it stopped working, it's working now, but
Here, let's get it
I
out.
don't know, for some reason they're bringing minis into this.
Oh my God. Can I have a mini with you? Will you take our picture?
sure.
We haven't seen
She
each
was
other.
she taught me to jump. This is pretty big.
I yelled at her a lot.
I think a rental trainer's just enough.
I had the loudest voice of everybody.
Do a few. Thank you so much. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll be good.
This little mini is so cute. I know I could get away with him in my backyard. Randy wouldn't notice for at least a week, do you think?
You see the one with the teeth? I think that's one that got caught in the fire, maybe.
Oh, in the fire? Oh, really?
Fire here.
Yeah, I remember when the barn burned, yeah. I wondered what had happened to him.
That, I'm guessing, I've only been here like one time before this.
This may be the best part of the day, just getting
You
a
come to
picture
the
of you.
oyster roast in October.
Anyways.
It's a lot of fun. Good band. They do a low country boil,
Oh, that's nice.
silent auction.
Yeah.
All the oysters you can eat.
Hey,
It's great
do you
fun.
know Chris Littleton? She's a dressage judge. That's where I'm riding.
I've been
And
on
I
it.
wanted to be at that barn forever. She's really a nice person.
Where did you meet the first time?
Apex.
Apex.
It's Triangle outside of Raleigh.
Oh.
You want to hear something funny on the way here? So Heather, she's her mother-daughter team. Heather's a dressage judge as well. It's a very kind, loving place, but they are very serious. I mean, they're both judges, and they're very respected. And there's so much drama and cattiness in Southern Pines in the horse world. Oh my God! And God, I hate that. But
right? I mean, obviously you know that, right? You joined in the horse world. So I just wanted to be a part of this barn forever. I finally did, and after my horse died, Chris found me the horse at her barn. It's one of her orders, and this horse is, oh my God, you know me, the horses I find. Right? Remember Sheba and Wiley? When Sheba ran away with you, the red
Remember the
robe?
Appy?
Yeah, that was Sheba.
Okay.
And she would run away. Like they'd be like, number 8 is not coming out of the woods. And my mom would be having a stroke, right? And then Wiley, remember Wiley, the big bay?
Oh yeah.
Yep. And but I find these horses that like have like quirks.
Yeah. They all doing something.
Well, yeah, but mine were like run away with you rear, and that made me a better rider, because that's what I had access to. Right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I got this horse named Queenie, and she is 17 something, but she's as wide as she is tall. She's half draft. Oh my God! But she has a good heart. She goes for it. Heather, text me on the way here. Why would you phone me at this much? Queenie's ready for you to ride. I was like, okay.
Not
I'm
today.
4 hours away. Whatever. No, she didn't tag her up or anything. She just had her. They feed her early and
You're up already, so you just want to go check out.
yeah, she knows that.
Oh,
Lisa, if you need me, let me know.
What?
Whenever you need me.
Just hold on.
Yeah. She told me to tell you.
I didn't know she'd already.
told you?
I didn't know
She
she'd
said
already
you
checked
might
in
want to
with you.
check in, so I'm checking.
Remember, it does not matter that there's no one sitting in here because we're so. So I would prefer if you hold the mic. Are you gonna be, Rachel? You have your stuff?
I got my stuff. Are you ready for me?
Well, I can't put it together.
I got this. Do you want the computer or a flash drive? Or do you
Well, if you're good with your computer,
incredible.
yeah, well then
That's a
let me
joke.
just
I mean, I'm not that good with it.
well, let me just unplug the HDMI and let you plug right into it.
I think.
Because I would rather you use your computer that you know.
But here's the thing.
What?
Yes, okay. I'm new to this, so bear with me. I can get through it. I got a flash drive, but that won't go with the clicker, right? If we plug the flash drive in there, can the clicker? No. Then I gotta use the clicker in this.
That little. Then there's
At
a
least
lot
I
of
knew that.
flaws, too.
Okay? Where would you like me?
Hang on.
But I'm gonna sit with my computer on my lap.
Hang on.
You know what I
Hang on.
I know what to do.
Is the Mini coming back at 4 o'clock? No, we're gonna sit the computer right here, Rachel. I'm gonna sit the computer right here and you're gonna look either kind of be off to the side here. Okay, and you're gonna, so people can see the screen.
I have a better idea to make this smoother. I have a presentation that's a collage of the entire show, and it's one slide.
Okay.
And I think that sounds
Oh, whatever you
easier than
wanna
me
do.
fumbling
I can
around.
put that in here too.
Okay.
You want me to just put that into here?
Yeah, because then, yes. Then I don't need the computer. I just don't know how many things I can manage at one time.
All you gotta do is just roll with the flow.
Oh, no, I'll be fine.
This
I'm
is,
just
this
saying.
audience here is pretty easy to get
No, I'm
along.
not worried.
I don't think anybody's gonna heckle you off the stage.
Second time we're here, so don't feel bad.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that so well. It's more the computer and the clicker and the microphone. And I think this will be, because this is the whole story, it's every single slide thing, and it's made into one. I did this on purpose.
Might be able to plug directly into the TV.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it right into the computer as soon as she gives it to me.
Looks like I could clean a house with that. So I'll tell you which one it is. It's the one that looks like a collage. There's just
okay.
2 presentations on it.
Oh, that's your Word doc. Okay, so Rachel? Rachel? One of these is a Word document and one is a PowerPoint document.
Oh.
Which one?
It's the Word document. It's the collage.
Okay, but you didn't save it as a JPEG, right?
Yeah, but it worked.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's not very big.
I will teach you after this how to save that as a JPEG. Okay, that's as big as it's going to
I
get.
hired help.
Huh?
I hired help.
You hired help.
Well, I knew nothing, and now I know a little bit more than nothing.
Is that a little bit better? Is that better, Rachel?
Yes.
Okay, and you can sit here. Because it's very.
I got it.
Wait, you're.
What do I press over here?
Nothing. Just talk into it. Sit down there.
When to go.
So. We'd like to introduce. I gotta get in front of the thing. We'd like to introduce Rachel Sidney with her presentation for this afternoon's panel and kind of like our chat bar up here today for things are a little easy today, so we're going to let Rachel tell you her story.
Thank you. Hi there. I'm Rachel. It is a huge privilege and honor to be sitting here with you. I was asked to share my miracle healing and what it took to recover from a back-breaking horse fall in 2015, as well as the technique I discovered during my recovery for overcoming pain. I hope that this will inspire you to push past any pain, fear, or obstacles that may be blocking you from living your best life and your dreams. Everyone has overcome something. Everyone has a version of my story, be it a loss, death, divorce, illness, injury, or trauma. In addition to being an athlete, I'm a therapist specializing in trauma, pain management, and sports psychology. My accident taught me to live like every day is my last. Life is too short to allow your passions and dreams to just get washed down the drain. I didn't know how many more chances I would be given. I didn't dodge this bullet to stay on the sidelines another day. The good news is that inherent in every tragedy is also an opportunity to reach higher heights, to live a more fulfilling, passionate life. I had a powerful revelation in a dream. The diamond band I've worn forever on my right hand, if you can see it, was robbed. The same hand that required surgery after my fall. In the dream, I searched frantically. I was shocked to realize the diamonds were stolen. Only the setting remained, empty and barren. It was reminiscent of my life after the accident, and I felt like a shell of my former self. I had lost my passions, desires, and dreams, and the jewels of my heart, all gone. The ring looked pitiful, with only prongs. I was determined to reset it with new stones. It wasn't too late. I woke up frantically, searching for the ring. It felt like when I lay on the frozen ground, staring up at the sky as my life flashed before my over 8 years ago. It was 28 degrees. Before my feet even hit the stirrups, the horse bolted in a wild bucking frenzy. I was thrown several feet in the air, and I thought, please don't step on me, milliseconds before crashing on my back. I lay motionless a few feet from an electric fence, staring up at the sky as my 12-year-old daughter, Julia, covered my shivering body with a horse blanket and spoke to the paramedic. I broke 3 vertebrae in my sacral and thoracic spine, T12, S2, and S3. I required right hand surgery, and I tore my right rotator cuff. Yet I was compelled to retrieve my lost dreams and what was left of my life. I'd been given a second chance, and like the ring, I realized I could reset my life. Being broken revealed profound insights leading to the miracle healing that I discovered, and also making my lost childhood dreams come true. Within 2 years, I went from merely surviving life as a single mother to thriving. I was jumping and competing horses with my daughter, painting pictures, and I wrote the book, Stay the Course. I bought my daughter a wonderful horse named Charm, fulfilling her lifelong dream. In the end, much good came from this catastrophic event. Horses have always been in my blood. I was born into the horse world, and my mom was my first trainer. She taught me to ride once I could walk, and by the age of 8, I was training for horse trials, and by 16, I had a promising riding career and was doing pony club eventing teams and rallies at the Green Mountain Horse Association in Vermont. I want to take a moment now, and she's not there, but my very first childhood trainer, Shari Cutter, who's sitting right there, and I don't know that we can see her. I have not seen her since I walked off of the cross-country course at 16. She taught me to jump, and she was one of my most favorite instructors for so many reasons, and I'm just very grateful. Thank you, Shari. I'll never forget you. It all came to an abrupt halt after a bad fall in cross-country when my horse, Wiley, nearly collapsed from exhaustion. That haunted me for years. It wasn't until after I broke my back as an adult that I recovered my confidence and I truly healed. I named my healing discovery the Equina Reset, Equina meaning horse in Latin. It's both a technique as well as an overall philosophy for overcoming pain and fear. Horses are amazing teachers. Charm was the horse of a lifetime. She taught me a new way to live. She was the lead mare. She had given birth to 2 foals. She was an eventer when I met her, and I was an exercise rider for her owner, a Holsteiner breeder who encouraged me to buy her for my daughter. We both fell in love with Charm, and I sensed that she understood my fear after my accident. In the saddle, I could feel the tension in her body subside when I rode her. She had big floating strides and flashy forward movement. It was a joy and a privilege to be on her back, which I never took for granted. She was a mixture of power and sensitivity. If I moved my pinky, even slightly, she responded. She was that sensitive. Like Charm, I am sensitive, and I intuitively felt her tendency to bolt. My soft way soothed her, and we worked together like hand and glove. She was the most intelligent horse I have ever known. There was no halfway with Charm. She either won or got eliminated, but like us, she put her whole heart into everything. She nurtured and challenged Julia, taking her from a budding junior rider and shaping her into the talented rider that she became. I often joke that Charm raised my daughter. Charm was always in charge and very much a queen. I thanked her for allowing me on her back, and certainly after every fence. She taught me to stand up for myself and be assertive. Charm could answer any question, but only if you asked her correctly. Julia and I both became better riders and better people. I retrieved the passion for riding and eventing I had lost at 16 on cross country. My love for Charm healed me outside of the riding arena and contributed to the creation of my 3-prong pain technique. Please bear with me for a moment. This next part is a little bit technical but essential. The science of pain and fear. Pain and fear are the ultimate thieves. They are paralyzing and sabotage the moment. Pain creates fear, and fear worsens the pain. It is a vicious cycle which traps us in our body, steals our joy, and robs our energy and hope for the future. Surviving the day is a chore. Despite working in pain management, I didn't understand the magnitude until after my fall. The remedies are not palatable. Surgeries and medications are filled with side effects, often worse than the pain itself. Alternative remedies have their place, but they're temporary, expensive,
and can't be done without the aid of another. Ultimately, one may still be unable to participate in life. The underlying elements of pain are the same regardless of the nature of the pain. Pain is pain, physical or mental. It begins in the brain, which sends signals telling us that something hurts. Those signals may become confused, causing everything to hurt. In effect, the wiring gets crossed. This explains wanting to cry when we hit our finger with a hammer or are sick with a fever. It is when the system gets flooded the zebra outruns. We turn on ourselves. A solution derived in part from the concept of neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to develop new neural pathways and calm the system. Levels. Brain plays a role in in utero activity, threat physiology floods the system with stress chemicals like adrenaline, cortisol, and histamines. Like the zebra, this is a survival response, mobilizing the body to outrun the threat. Once relaxed, the system settles down and pain decreases. Simply put, a sense of safety reduces pain and increases healing and happiness. This was true for me. After my accident, I was flat on my back, in a brace, trapped in my body for months. The pain was scary. If I turned a certain way, my fractured thoracic vertebrae felt like a searing hot knife in my back, literally shocking me. My fractured sacrum throbbed so badly it felt like I'd been beaten with a baseball bat. I couldn't foresee a future of merely surviving pain. My life was worth more than that. I tried everything from narcotics, cortisol injections, chiropractic massage, and biofeedback, but it was all temporary. Occasionally, my thoughts darkened, and I panicked. Awful scenarios flooded me. The fear of developing cauda equina, a syndrome where the compression of nerves cuts off sensation, leading to potential paralysis. This hovered over me. I noticed that I was not captive to that fear when I daydreamed about horseback riding or was painting a picture. Instead, I could feel the energy move through my body. I did breathing exercises, painting, listened to music, and moved my feet in a circular motion. There was a repetitive quality to the activities. Ultimately, pain and fear are just trapped energy. The combination of this yearning in my heart to ride, the visualization of my dreams, and the repetitive activities and exercise released something and brought me peace. The feeling reminded me of riding and the swaying rotation of my hips in the saddle. It was then I realized I had relied upon the same principles in my recovery that I internalized as a child rider, and there was a scientific explanation for feeling better. I had created a new neural pathway in my brain. The repetitive movements from physical therapy and painting, the training principles instilled in me from dressage, and the desire in my heart to ride evolved into an innovative technique to overcome pain. And my goal was no longer to just be pain-free. Whenever I painted or did my exercises, I visualized cantering in the woods, the sun on my face, the wind in my hair. In the end, it was my love of horses and painting that replaced the pain and ultimately healed me. In combination with neuroscience, the dressage training principles of rhythm, relaxation, connection, impulsion, straightness, and collection became the basis of my pain management technique, which I elaborated upon in my book, Stay the Course. 10 months after fracturing 3 vertebrae, I was back in the saddle for 5 minutes at a time. A few weeks later, I was riding for 20 minutes, and 18 months later, I was cross-country schooling and competing over fences. I believe my miracle healing was due to this technique. It easily could have taken me 3 times as long to heal. Much like the training principles of impulsion or an impetus to act, holding my goal in my mind's eye propelled me through the pain, and everything just came together. The key principles of my pain technique, the Equina Reset, are reflection, repetition, and release.
and is designed to conquer pain and fear and drive it right through us and release it from our systems. The difference between this and other pain management techniques is the and achieve goals and dreams. Overcome best I was unaware that this yearning was the most important aspect of my technique. I had discovered that pain. This realization gave existential meaning and purpose to my life. I've learned there are players and spectators in life. Players stick their neck out and go for it despite the fear of looking bad or messing up. They are not ego-driven, they just do it. They don't judge others because they know the terror of leaving their comfort zone and taking the risk to go forward. In the end, they are the winners, despite missteps and even major falls. There is no such thing as a mistake other than to not do it at all. The spectators are more common among us. They sip iced tea on the sidelines afraid to look bad. They gossip and criticize the players, living vicariously and driven by envy. They celebrate the losses, and they are the frenemies and haters that we must shake off to live our dreams. My mom always said, there's free rent space in your head, so don't let them have it. But I think Theodore Roosevelt said it best when he said, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who strives to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, but who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Thank you very much for listening. I dare you to be a player in your own life.
Good job.
Do I just sit here?
Could you discuss your pictures on your screen there?
Sure. That was interesting. Do you all have any questions?
I noticed you talked about pain management and trying to change how the brain thinks with pain and stuff like that. I've never heard of that before. So if somebody's riding a horse and they get hurt and medication's not helping them, what could you do?
Well, there are many other things besides just medication. I mean, sometimes in the acute phase, like right after surgery or right after an injury, probably not much is going to help. But it's the prolonged use of opiates that is being found to not be the real solution. They have their place, and I'm not a physician. I like to make that clear. For me, it's a combination of what I was saying in this, which is, to make it simple, in the nervous system, we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And in the parasympathetic nervous system, that is the relaxation response. Our bodies secrete different hormones. It's the pleasure principle. It's all the things that make us feel good and relaxed. And the sympathetic is the fight or flight response, which we need. It's a survival response because it mobilizes us to outrun the prey. So, but the problem with living in a heightened state, it's a dysregulation of the nervous system because most of us are not being chased by lions. And when we live in anxiety, our blood pressure goes from, normal to 120, not literally, but it gets jacked up, and the stress chemicals that I talked about, cortisol especially, adrenaline, course through our veins, and it increases pain perception. So one of the big things that you want to do is learn to regulate your nervous system.
Do you
And
think getting on the horse and working with the horses helps?
yes,
Not think about the pain?
absolutely. That is, to keep it simple, that was the technical answer. But to keep it simple, I didn't know the technical answer back when I was doing it. I just knew that that was the only thing that made me feel good. It was the only thing that gave me any joy. And then when I had the joy, I noticed that I would forget about the pain.
I think working with horses helps a lot of the pain.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So he asked about your images up there.
Okay, sure.
Oh, you can't go too far.
I can't go too far. Okay, well, I'll start from the beginning. We'll pretend I have the clicker. Click. This is when the accident happened, and that is my daughter, who basically saved my life, Julia. I was on the stretcher. I don't know what more to say about that one. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, over a year later, I was cleared to ride for 5 minutes at a time. I got a position as an exercise rider for this lovely horse. The owner is a Holsteiner breeder, and this was probably the most powerful horse I've ever ridden. That's Vita. My basic role was to help cross-country school her while the owner was training the horse that we later bought, her baby. We were convinced and persuaded, and it didn't take much persuasion to buy this horse. This is Charm. I bought her from the lady that I exercise rode for. And I bought her for my daughter, but she did become, my daughter was kind enough to share her with me, and she became the horse of my heart and my daughter's heart. And we basically shared her, competed her. She's an eventer. I shared a little bit about her in the speech. That's just a picture. That is me underneath that hugging Charm. 18 months after I had that accident, broke 3 vertebrae, I competed in combined training at the Carolina Horse Park and came in 2nd place, and it was a pretty big deal to me. Even though it wasn't the highest level, it was still a pretty big deal to do that competition after I had broken my back, to have that confidence. So that's me hugging her after the competition was over. This is a picture that my dad took when I was 16 years old on that Pony Club eventing team that Shari Cutter trained me. You may remember that horse. That's Wiley. And walking away from that riding career, I lost so much confidence. So healing from this accident and retrieving my lost passion sort of healed me from the original accident, if that makes any sense. So anyway, my dad named that card, it was like a Christmas card, Jumping for Joy. And that's the name of my speech, because I think that when we access joy, that is the true pain relief. And the technique that I came up with, which is in my book, so I won't get into it now, but it's based on harnessing your joy in a very structured way to overcome pain, using the principles of dressage. Up here we have Julia and Charm, and in the corner right I'm doing a jump school at a horse show, and that's my older daughter Charlotte, who is not as much a horse person, but she is a big fan. And that's my painting that I did while flat on my back after I broke my back. And another painting. And then if you can see down there, that's me walking, I believe that's me walking the course at the Green Mountain Horse Association on cross country. Can you see that?
I've come up there and looked at it closely.
Anyway,
Very nice.
thank you.
The painting on the bottom right-hand corner, is that something you painted?
Yeah,
Very nice.
thank you so
Is that
much.
Like a watercolor?
It's acrylic.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, I'm an artist too.
And you mentioned you had a book out?
It's coming. It's
Okay.
called Stay the Course.
what can I say? It's my story, but it's also about the pain management technique that I came up with. It gets in depth, how to do it, the background, the dressage training principles, and it's based on basically riding a course. Like life is a course, and having a goal and getting there, and using the training principles in different chapters to talk about that. Mm-hmm.